Good evening. Welcome to this month's Town Administrators Report. I'm David Watts Jr., and with me is our Town Administrator, Steve Mayo. Steve, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, David. It must be budget time. We have all this stuff to talk about, right?
This is going to be the money show in
I
more
like
ways
that.
than one.
I like that.
But the first one we're going to talk about at the beginning of this month, in the January 6th item, was an article about the proposed new high school. And core to that article was the fact that we had not made the list for state funding this year.
For this round, yes.
So what happened there? Do we know?
Well, I think a combination of things happened. I think that the school department put together a very strong application. They had some great breakout sessions with the SBA. The SBA came twice and toured the high school. Was showing everything from the HVAC system and how we actually basically fabricate parts to keep that going. We the guys do a great job with it. To the science labs, to what have you, to antiquated systems and what have you. So a great presentation was made, and the superintendent did a fabulous job. Our reps were there; they did a great job. But in talking to the SBA, to their representative, number one, Wakefield had just come off the Galvin. Okay, so there's an equity issue there. The Galvin is not even completely closed out yet. We will have our final closeout with the SBA because they audit us for a good year afterwards. It seems like 2 years now. So what I'm hearing is that we will be in front of the SBA for our final meeting with them, final closeout, where we get our final money back, I think on May 10th, in the beginning of May. So in their little world of SBA, where all the boxes are checked and everything, Wakefield still has an open project, okay? I maintain that most cities and towns, of Wakefield's size won't get two projects. So that was stacked against us. Even though Galvin went great, and it came in on time, under budget, SBA has been very happy through the whole process. We still, in their minds, maybe have two projects open. The other thing is that when you look at some of the schools that got on the list in our neighborhood and some that didn't, I think they really had a need factor. And I think that Saugus, I'm very happy for our friends in Saugus, just up Farm Street here. Their high school, middle school is in such bad shape. I mean, it really, from a pure, if you were to step back and not being either town, you would say, hey, equity, they need it more than we do. And I know that's bad for the people of Wakefield, I get it, but we have to look at that whole thing.
Right.
And I think the other thing is that, the SBA has a limited pool of money, and they got really caught up in a huge project in Somerville. That Somerville High School is, $200+ million? That affects, and a big reimbursement, probably higher than we're going to get, that affects them. So some of the schools that didn't get on the list, Wakefield didn't, Northeast didn't, Stoneham did it, all for the high school. So I think that part and parcel those things happened. What was very nice about the walkthrough with the SBA, and I think what really impressed them, which will help us going forward no matter what we do, is that when they went through, they didn't see the Wakefield School Department, particularly the teachers and the aides and the administration, sitting on their hands and saying, woe is me. Students were engaged. They were making the best of what they had with. And I think those comments about the curriculum and how that was being supported and what have you was really, I think that made an impression on the SBA. So that's very, that's a good element for going forward. The other thing is that the things that we don't have is we don't have overcrowding. We don't have really glaring safety issues. So those are two more glaring issues that would have kind of bumped you to the top of the list. So, those things being said, it wasn't completely discouraging because the SBA certainly encouraged us to apply again, which we will.
This year?
This year? Oh, well, the next round comes through.
Yeah.
They also said that, they could go back to communities and they might not be ready, and that might bump us back up. So I think all in all, it wasn't all that, it's discouraging, but think about how many times we went into the Galvin and the Galvin was turned down.
Sure.
So it takes time.
Well, and the Woodville before that, and the Joel Bear before that.
Yeah, we had a number of times that It's not you go to the well once and you get it. But I think the presentation, the package, and I think the superintendent needs to be really, and the school committee really given a lot of credit for putting a great foot forward on it. So sometimes it just doesn't work out, particularly the first time. What I am happy about, though, the fact is, and I think this has been made very clear, I think the superintendent has mentioned it, the chairman of the school committee, is that we're not just going to, put our head in the sand or go and cry in bed for the next 2 years about these things. We are going to look at what we can do to make sure that we keep this, great educational facilities going for our students at Wakefield. And I think town meeting had a lot of foresight on this. In November of 2014, we actually, on our own dime, did create, do a full-blown needs assessment, and came up with a feasibility type of study. Not a feasibility study that the SBA wants. It's going to cost $1 million. They want schematic design. It's beyond. But some suggestions. So I think that one thing that I've had discussions with members of the Permanent Building Committee and the superintendent and members of the Board of Selectmen, and school committee for that matter, what can we look at to go forward, and should we look at some other things? And I think that's what we're going to do. I am not at all convinced that we need to knock down this building and rebuild. I think there may be ways that we should really explore, and I think it will end up hopefully being more cost effective for the taxpayer and still give very good or excellent education opportunities to our kids. So, or in our case, our grandkids. So,
but to a certain extent, and I don't know if this is true or not because I'm not an architectural engineer, but the core of the building, the original junior high footprint, is still pretty solid.
Yeah, the 1950s portion of the building is much better than the 1970s add-on.
Which was added on in haste because of the loss of the original Atwell building in December '71.
Right, and they had and it had to be done quickly.
Right.
So yes, I think that there are things that we can do with science and technology, and the arts, and there may be, those are the kind of discussions we're having. So not all is for lost.
The troubling aspect of the article, though, and I think we need to maybe explain to our audience what this is all about. It was mentioned there that we may face a loss of accreditation because of the building, not because of the curriculum. What is that about, and how much danger is the town in?
I'm going to tell you that I am a much more skeptic on the accreditation process than the school department can and would be publicly. I think that when you look at the accreditation process, it is done by educational group that really is pushing to getting more and more schools built and what have you. So they come in with a bias anyway. We are not overcrowded. We do not have these glaring safety issues. Technology is going pretty good. We do have issues in the science labs. I get that. That certainly is a glaring item that we need to fix. I think that the way I understand the whole accreditation process is that if you are making progress, you certainly will step forward. So I am personally very hopeful that when they see what we are doing, they see that we're spending our own money on things like this pre-feasibility study, trying to move forward. I think that certainly helps with the whole accreditation process. And I certainly think we will have a litany of people to stand toe-to-toe with the accreditation agency to show what we have done, again, on our own nickel when you look at this facility at WCAT. Well, some of it was on WCAT's nickel as well. The sports facilities, the Center for Performing Arts, the upgrade in technology, system-wide. I think that there's a lot of stuff that we have done, more that we need to do, absolutely. But I think I have a very different view of that accreditation.
But should it happen, should we lose accreditation for the high school? It wouldn't be for the school district in general, just for the high school.
What does that mean?
Yeah,
That's a
what
question.
does that
We're going to
mean?
have to bring the superintendent to a show on that, because I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we'll plan to do that.
We'll plan
in the
to do that
future.
one, yeah.
Okay, but for now, I think we can put that one to bed.
Yeah.
We're now starting our usual series of shows that we do every year as we work towards annual town meeting.
Yes.
Which annual town meeting will be starting on Monday, May 1st.
Monday, May 1st, yeah.
That's not been cast in stone yet,
It's not cast in stone, but as I read the charter, that is the date it needs to be. Charter says 30 days from the first Monday in April, and where the first Monday in April is, and that
Yep.
does fit that. I'd like it to be a little bit later, but I'll talk to the Charter Commission about that as they revise that.
That's still 2 years away.
Yes.
But we have a budget preview.
Yep.
Now, the budget itself won't be cast in stone for printing until the end of March.
Yeah, end of March, beginning of April. We should have it all. We have it scheduled out, in my mind anyway, but through then. So yes, it'll be pretty much cast in stone then.
But the first numbers I'm looking at, and this is something we've talked about numerous times over the
Yeah.
7.5 years that we've had this series, are basically the town savings accounts. The stabilization fund, free cash, reserve fund, OPEB, and the WS reserve.
Right, and I think what I like to do is, and I like to look at the budget, and I kind of take a very kind of, that 500, feet above earth look at it, where we are. And I like to think about where we are, when you look at your own financial house, I kind of look at it the same way. How are we set, how are we healed right now? And when you add up 3 million in stabilization, really good within our policy. Free cash of 7 million, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Reserve fund, which is the Finance Committee reserve, 300,000.
Right.
OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits, 8 million. That's the money we need to put away for retiree health insurance. Basically, very few communities are doing that and covering their pension at the same time, which is what we're doing. That's a great story, and it actually will, by paying this debt obligation down, we're actually saving millions that we would have to put away later on of taxpayer money. Water and sewer reserve. I heard a story today about a community not too far from us that has no water and sewer reserve at all. The Department of Revenue has told them they better get that water and sewer reserve up, or else the Department of Revenue will not certify their tax rate for next fiscal year. Talk about being hit, accreditation,
Sure.
accreditation. This is really getting hit. You can't send out a tax bill. Director Stinson, the Board of Selectmen have done a great job on that, making sure that, we put a little bit, no one likes to pay water and sewer bills. I don't either. But we do put a little bit away for the infrastructure and what have you, and that's not an unhealthy number.
Right. Right. And it is something that has allowed us to keep up with some of the replacements.
Exactly.
That have come up.
Yeah.
So budget priorities.
Yes, that's something that the selectmen and I talk a lot about. And, I think, again, from the selectmen side, we know that the school department is education. From the selectmen side, though, we look at public safety as our number one priority. And you could say that encompasses roads, police and fire, that encompasses fire prevention. It encompasses making sure that there are code enforcement on buildings. I think it all falls under that public safety ball of wax, programs that we have to work with people that are mentally challenged and what have you, to make them integrated better in society and help other people. So that's always our number one. Now within that, we kind of drill down and say we need to put more into our infrastructure, which might be roads and sidewalks and what have you. We need to look at drainage. Drainage is a big issue. Sometimes when you don't have a snowy winter, and let's hope that we don't. Sometimes you have a lot of this rain.
We're not going there.
It causes
on this
other
show.
problems.
We are not going there on this show.
Capital improvements. We need to take care of our infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I think that when you talk about 8 years ago when we were sitting and first doing the show together, we were lucky to budget $500,000 for capital improvements.
Right.
We're at 2.1 million that's embedded in the budget right now. Still not enough. I get it. But it's a great leap in the right direction. It is getting us to keep up with that infrastructure.
Because that's always been one of the core complaints of a lot of residents is that we spend a lot of money building facilities,
Right.
but we didn't spend any money maintaining those facilities.
And repairing them and
Yep.
repairing a $100 issue and not letting it become a $10,000 issue.
Yep.
I think that we have a long way to go. I think we're doing and continue doing a much better job on
Yep.
that right now. We go through the capital planning committee, really goes through almost every line item on things like
Right.
this. And I think that's come a long way. I mean, we have a plan where we look at every building, every car, every piece of DPW equipment going out, 10, 15 years.
Sure.
And
Well, and also we, on capital improvements, one of the projects that we were talking about in November was changes that we need to make to the public safety building.
Right.
The public safety building is a fairly new building, but there are some design deficiencies in the building that
Yeah.
have been discovered as a result of using the building
right.
that couldn't have been found any other way, and that we're going to have to,
Maybe.
yeah,
I think some people felt it was probably not correct when it was done. But it was built
Possibly.
at a different time. I mean, it was built...
and it was built with a different mindset.
Different
There-
mindset.
There was a different chief
right,
at the time
right.
with a different set of
Yeah.
priorities to what our current
Right.
police
I mean, there are
department.
some physical issues that need to be fixed in that building anyway. But I think the real crux of the matter is that it's not built for a real strong community policing model. And that's
Right.
what we've gone to. And
Right.
what I think we should be in, and I think that the people of Wakefield, I think, will appreciate the fact that we've gone there. And so that's something that people have talked about for years
Right.
that need to be fixed, and we're looking to
Because
do
unlike
that.
the old building, it's like walking into a fortress.
Absolutely.
You
Right.
know, it is not at all community
Yeah.
friendly.
No, it's not. And it was built on purpose that way.
Right. Business development, which is
Yeah.
something that we've talked about over the course of
We're
this
still
series.
trying.
In some ways it's happening, but it's happening less because the town government is making it happen, and more because individual landlords are feeling it is important.
They're starting
Greenwood
to get
is
it.
a good example
Right,
of
yeah.
that.
Yeah, you have that block in Greenwood that was just redone.
Yep,
What a fantastic job.
yep,
I mean, I wish some of our business owners, our property owners downtown.
yeah,
But you know what? You are seeing green shoots of that, that are people that are taking care of the facades,
Yes.
what have you. So you're seeing some of it.
Well, in the effort for the Albion Street Arts District
Absolutely.
is starting to see benefits there too,
Yeah.
even though the districting of that area is still a few years away.
Yeah, but you can see it. You can see it happening.
Yeah,
it's starting.
Absolutely, absolutely. Contracts, we always talk about
We always
contracts
start with
in
contracts.
town meeting.
I know. Oh.
That was something we didn't have to deal with in the regular town meeting in November. They were all done.
Right.
What do we have facing us in 2017?
On July 1st, 2017, I have the town has 3 contracts that are expiring, that will expire by then: police, fire, and our supervisory union. So I'm in negotiations with them right now. I hope to have articles for all of them at the April town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a reality that we need to work on.
And then recreation activities.
Yeah, I think that, and I'm going to add one that's not on the list there too, that I talked about a little bit. I think that people that are moving to Wakefield, visiting Wakefield, people that have lived in Wakefield for a long time, are really looking for activities, fun activities, whether they're educational or physical or dance or art or what have you, to enhance their quality of life. And I think that with our new athletic director at the high school, our after-school program at the high school, or at all the schools, I should say, working with our recreation director, Dan McGrath, that has all blossomed. You have a lot of synergy, a lot of young people getting more involved, and things like that. I've challenged them to take that to the next level, to really bring back a very vibrant adult ed. I think people like doing things, whether it's paint night or it's photography class. I think people like learning. They want to be active. They want to do something that's fun and at all ages. So we're seeing more of that, and we see more and more of that, and it's actually bringing in money. It's not costing money. It's cost effective and money left over. So
Right.
I think these guys have done a great job. I think the other thing you're gonna hear a lot about next year is our social messaging. How are we messaging and how are we reaching the public? I think we've done a lot more of that. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. We have a Twitter president. I don't expect to get on Twitter and get involved in stuff like that. But I do think that more and more people are looking for our website, our Facebook page.
Yep.
Maybe we're going to go to Twitter for what have you, for information regarding whether it's an emergency or whether it's a parking ban, or whether it's just, hey, we have a jazz concert tonight. So trying to make sure that people are aware. And you know what? Hey, our meetings from our selectmen's meetings, WCAT, make sure they're all streamed live. Streamed, right after the meeting the next day or 48 hours later. People that can't watch the meeting can certainly go on their computer and watch it. So
Right.
I think people want the information. They deserve the information. It's more of our open and transparency, and let it all be out there. You'll see more of that coming down the pike.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Maybe somebody will ask for town meeting to be put up there
Yeah.
however many hours.
Yeah.
So we're in the period now when the departments will be coming to you with their budgets.
Yeah.
In the past, it was level funding.
Yeah, there was some years that
Last
were.
year, we were starting to creep up
Yeah.
a little bit into, well, we can go a little further. What do we
Yeah.
see for this year?
Well, I think for this year, you're going to see a lot of departments, and this includes personnel increases, coming in the 3 to 4% range. And people do deserve, our town employees do deserve a raise. Many of them are doing really well. People get up, people have contracts, and they're moving up on that, and that happens too. So I think that's kind of where we're looking at. That's kind of how I've kind of pulled everything together at this point. There are always some budget busters that we need to be aware of. I don't think it's our operating budgets that are going to be the budget busters, however. These are the kind of things that come from the outside. So I think 3 or 4%, that includes the school department. I'm looking right in the camera and telling them. A few years ago, we had an agreement or a deal, what have you, that
Yep.
we made a big commitment, because it had to happen. We had to right size some chronically underfunded areas in the school department. Frankly, I was sick of saying, let's do 6%, 6%, 6%, and you never really get anywhere. Town supported it, school department supported it, 11%, at one hit, and then coming back with 4% for the next few years. We're in year 3 of that agreement,
Yep.
I think, and that's worked out very well. I hope that works out again, because everything here in part and parcel is we've forecasted. I mean, we don't just look 1 year. We're looking out 2025.
Right.
So
And I think that's the message that you and the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen and the School Committee in town meeting have tried to make clear to people, is that we're not looking year to year.
right.
Our budget is year to year. We're looking down the road 10
Right.
years.
There is a financial roadmap, whether
Yeah.
it's capital improvements or
Yeah.
just cost of budgets and what have you, and revenues. We look at revenues too. So
Well, and that's a big difference also,
Yeah.
because I can remember town meetings years ago where there wasn't any real financial planning. It was just, here's what we're going to do for this year. Agree,
yeah.
disagree, move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. No, I think the Finance Committee has done a great job in forecasting forward. And what's great about the Finance Committee is that not only will we do that, but they'll also sit down in our meetings and discussions and say, what if we get a shock? What if they cut state aid by this? What if something happens? And again, these are things that are outside of us. Healthcare spikes
Right.
10%, or which was happening before we went into the state plan. It's 15%. How can we handle it? Let's put that shock in. Let's extrapolate that out and see what happens. So, it makes me sleep a little bit better at night to know that we've gone through that exercise.
Sure.
And I think that we've done, to the Board of Selectmen's credit, the Finance Committee's credit, a really good job of trying to create that roadmap, stick to it, and that's the department heads too. I mean, department heads don't get everything that they want, and
Right.
nor does anybody. But I think that they get it and understand that it is, we are moving forward in a nice path. So, and sometimes things have to wait, and then once we get through a few years, we find out, okay, we can squeeze that in.
Well, and in the 3 minutes or so that we have left, and we'll be talking about it in more detail as we get closer, is there any prognostication, any feeling on what's going to happen with the state aid this year, the cherry sheets?
Yeah, I will know, or I should get the first round of that on this Friday, actually, or Saturday morning at the Mass Municipal Association annual meeting. When the governor gives his state of the state to us, normally when you walk out of that meeting, they have the sheets printed out, per community, what he's looking at the major accounts for at this point in time. Usually that's Friday morning. This year the governor is going to be at the inauguration, so it's going to be Saturday morning in Boston. So that's fine. I am always very conservative on that. I can be pleasantly surprised, and I can move that up.
Sure.
But I'm looking at, as I look at the revenues coming into the state, because we get that every month, if we were to receive a 2 or 3% increase in state aid, I'm leaning towards 2, 3 to 4 would be great. But I think that when you look at their revenue situation, and we've been reading about that in the paper and then what have you, it's a little bit less than they thought. Revise that down. It's got to be revised down for us. But I'm still counting on, at this point, getting $9.7 million from the state in state aid. I'd love it to be $10 million, but at this point today, what are we, January 16th?
Yes.
17th?
18th.
18th, whatever it is, I'm at 9.7 million. Next week I might be more. And I hope I am. But again, that's just the first step in that process. Just because on January 21st or 22nd, they're going to say Wakefield's net is going to be 10 million.
Right.
As they go through the process and line items go up and down, we may be at 9.8 when we get there a little bit further. So I think the key is don't get too high, don't get too low
Right.
on these things. Don't, they do tend to work out. We have a great delegation. Our representatives and our senator, they keep us very informed at my level. They're texting me, sending me emails, calling me midnight on Saturday night to let me know what's going on. And that's not an exaggeration. I have been on the phone with them at midnight Saturday night on things. So they'll do the best that they can with us. But as of now, I know what the tax levy is going to be, a little over $66 million. And I know that the School Business Authority will give us about a little less than $1 million for the Dahlberg and the Woodville. So I have 2 out of about 20 numbers that are cast in stone. The others I don't know.
But hopefully by the next program we will go a little more.
We'll be backing into a lot of them, yeah.
And we will continue this discussion in February. In the meantime, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.